Hi folks, Toad here with VisDown.com and welcome to the review of our KTM 790 Adventure. So we've had this bike for about a week now and we've been doing all the kind of regular things that we like to do with adventure-y, off-roady style bikes such as this. So this is an on and off-road review with some motorway miles in there, town riding, B roads and back roads, and also off-road tight and technical stuff and some drifting about on dirt, which has all been rather good fun, I've got to say. So what is the 790 Adventure? Well, it is the bottom rung of 790 Adventure ownerships. There are two other models in the 790 Adventure range. There's this, which is the base model, which comes in at 9799. That's including £1,500 money off the deal that KTM have got going at the moment. There's also the 790 Adventure R, which the big difference is you get the next level up WP fully adjustable front forks and rear shock absorber. You also get a slinky Akrapovic pipe, and there's probably some other little additions as well. And there is the 790 Adventure R Rally, which is basically if you wanted to go and do enduro off-road long distance sort of racing as a privateer, that's probably where you'd start, and then you'd upgrade that bike to become your race bike. So just going to go through the engine about this thing very quickly. So this is effectively the same motor that was in the 790 Duke, the outgoing 790 Duke, which has been usurped by the 890 Duke R that we're going to be reviewing straight after this. It's been tuned differently for this machine, so it puts out 95 bhp, and it is it's called the LC8 engine. And it's got a totally different character to the 790 Duke. I rode the 790 Duke, I've ridden them a couple of times actually, a few times. The last time was on a WP suspension launch with KTM this time last year. And that bike is just an absolute animal. I mean, they call it the Scalpel. I think that's a bit wrong. They should have called it the Animal, because that's what it feels like to me. And the engine's a massive part of building that bike's character. It's all popping and banging, and the torque and the power come in with abruptness, and it's just exciting to ride. And I got on this and I expected it to be the same. But this engine is totally different to the 790 Duke. In this bike, they have dialed out all of that brutalistic, hardcore character, and they've wound in a massive load of refinement in the way that the engine revs, and the way the power's delivered, and the torque delivery, and the exhaust note, and everything about it just feels like it's just been toned down, it's been calmed down quite a lot. So it's just a really smooth, easygoing, easy to use, easy to ride engine in this bike, which was a massive surprise. But it's kind of what you want when you're riding off-road, and especially if you're going to be doing long distances. You don't want an animal, you want something that's got a little bit more refinement to it, and this has definitely won me over on that front. So like I said, it's got 95 bhp, which is plenty for an off-road machine, and it's got 64 pound-foot of torque. Now, it's not an absolute torque fest really low down, and one thing that I noticed when I was riding it, particularly off-road, is that the really tight and technical stuff, say where you're navigating a ditch, or you're just doing the slow speed stuff and you're not up in the rev range, it doesn't chug like some adventure bikes do. Some adventure bikes, you can effectively just let them tick over and they'll basically go up anything. Triumph Tiger 900, for instance, is really good example of that, especially the new T-Plane engine. It will just tick over in first gear, just take you up most obstacles, almost like it's got a diesel engine. This isn't quite so inclined to do that. So you do have to be a little bit more on top with your throttle and your clutch inputs just to help it along a little bit, otherwise it can cut out on you. But that's about the only thing that I noticed that was a negative about the engine and about the way that the power and the torque are delivered when riding off-road. Other than that, it's really very good. There is one thing that I need to add. The quick shifter on this bike, I haven't really gelled with it. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether I'm being too soft, or if there's some setting that I need to change to soften it up. I can't find it. You only seem to be able to turn it on and off in the menus. Sometimes it will shift and sometimes it won't. And it doesn't seem to be linked to any particular part of the rev range that you're in. So you can be higher up the rev range, and occasionally it won't go from 5th to 6th, and likewise down from 6th to 5th. But then lower down in the rev range, it might do it another time, and then you might not encounter the same issue again. Like I said, I don't know if it's me and my feet or the way that I'm using it. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't come across it on the 790 Duke. that I can remember. It's not a standard quick shifter. The module for the quick shifter and the part of the quick shifter that all the electronic gubbins isn't mounted on the shift rod, it's mounted on top of the engine. I don't know if it's, you know, if it's the best setup. Basically, I think a conventional quick shifter on the shifting rod might be a better way to go. It seems to be a little more finessed than the system that KTM are using. So unlike the engine, the frame, suspension, swing arm, everything else basically for this bike is all good for the 790. It's all been developed especially for this machine. Like I said, with the higher level bikes in the 790 Adventure range, this one gets the very, very good WP Apex suspension systems, which are open cartridge systems. They are excellent. Without any adjustability, I didn't really need it on this because my level of off-road riding probably isn't as hardcore as some owners maybe, but I wouldn't want to change the suspension at all. I think for on-road riding, it's actually pretty good. There's comfort, there's stability there. It doesn't dive massively in the corners. And before I rode it off-road, I almost thought, is it going to be a bit too hard to take off-road? I was completely wrong. It's a really, really bang on where you'd want it for a road and off-road mixture for the suspension. Absolutely spot on and comfortable on the road, good enough that you can push on and go quick and chase some apexes, but also when you got off-road, it's just so plush and so forgiving, and just gives you so much that it almost flatters you as you're riding it off-road. I have got to mention as well, these Avon tyres that it's got on it. I never really thought of Avon as being, you know, a premium motorcycle tyre company, but these are bloody good. They're the Avon Trail Rider tyres, and they're kind of they look more like one of these tyres that's going to be a pseudo off-road tyre that's actually not very good off-road. But even in mud, they were really good, and the grooves in the tyre clear really quickly when they get clogged up with mud. And yeah, they offer loads of grip. I was totally blown away by them, and that is not something I ever thought I'd say about some Avon hoops. So the bike has got, and this is one of its key features for me, is this underslung fuel tank. Now, stylistically, I think this looks like the bike has got elephantitis of the testicles. Personally, you've got these big hanging sacks of fluid on either side of the bike's sort of underbelly. Not the most attractive thing, but I'll tell you what, it means that this thing has got a 20-litre tank, and with that 20-litre tank, based on, you know, the fuel consumption that I've been getting on this test, it means you have got around about a 250-mile tank range. That's going by my figures, not KTM's. They quote about 280, but I reckon about 250 is probably safer. And I mean, for a middleweight adventure bike in this sector, that is probably as good as you're going to get. If you were looking at covering distance on and off-road on it, there are massive legs and massive potential for miles just locked within that bulbous sack of a fuel tank under there. It is quite well protected, and it is a really heavy duty plastic that they've used as well. You can, I'm supposing there's a company already that's made aluminium upgraded crash bars and stuff for that, so if you're worried about putting a hole in that tank, there is probably a way around that with some more hardcore crash bars. While I'm talking about long distance, the long distance comfort of this bike is actually very good. The ergonomics are spot on, I would say. Upper body, lower body. The seat is quite flat and it is quite firm. I think all seats are quite firm now. I must have a very tender backside, but it's actually quite comfortable, and you can spend long days in the saddle on this bike without a complaint, which is very good. My missus came on the back once, and she also really liked these kind of swept up hand grips there, because she's quite small, so normally quite a bit of a reach to get down to those, but they're very good. And the contoured seat meant staying on was nice, and the rear pegs are set so low, you've got so much room, kind of like the rider's pegs. They're just set really low down, and you just don't feel cramped, you don't feel flustered, and the ergonomics as well when riding off-road and stood up on the pegs is also absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I cannot fault it on that. So just going to talk about the handling of it. So something that I realised when I rode this, normally when I take a bike off-road, there's a sort of a 20 or a 30 minute acclimatization period where I have to get used to the bike, and the bike has to get used to me probably, and then you'll start to gel with it. Totally different on this. I got straight on it and I was riding absolutely flat out as fast as I felt I could go. The bike had got so much more in it though. The potential of the bike is still a lot more than my ability. But yeah, you just feel like you can get on it. It honestly, on road and off road really, it just feels like a dirty great BMX with a huge great engine in it. It's that easy to ride, it's that intuitive to ride, and you just want to have fun. And it just eggs you on, and you just want to have fun, and you want to do big skids and slide the back end of the bike round onto it. It's really, really enjoyable to ride. If you were sort of quite new to riding off-road, sort of adventure riding, green laning, whatever, this I would probably say is a better bet for you to go out and buy than something like a big enduro bike, because it's just going to be so much more docile. It's got extra weight. That extra weight doesn't negatively manifest itself in the bike. What it does, it gives you a feeling of stability. But yeah, it's just a really, really easy bike to ride off-road. We've got seat height isn't too bad either. We've got an 850mm seat. Ground clearance isn't class leading. I think Tenere's probably got a bit more ground clearance than this, but it's 233 millimeters, which is absolutely fine for all the stuff that I was riding on the other day. And yeah, never had any issues really. So what do we like about the KTM 790 Adventure? I love the range. I think that tank is weird looking to the extreme, and it'll probably take me a long time to get used to something that strange. But yeah, it can mean that you can cover big distances between Phillips, which I think is great. Ergonomically and comforts, I think the bike is absolutely spot on. And just the off-road handling and the off-road ability of this thing, and the way that it made me feel so at home so quickly, and just allowed me to get on the pace, I thought was absolutely brilliant. What don't we like about the bike? Yeah, there's a couple of things that could be refined. The quick shifter is the biggest one really. I think that something about that system where the quick shifter's laid over the top of the engine, I don't think it works as well as just a standard quick shifter. I don't know why they've done it that way. There's obviously some reason that they've decided to go with it, but for me it doesn't sit right with me. And the other thing is that they're changing the riding modes occasionally. You have to sort of hold the button on the handlebar, close the throttle, and then while you're closing the throttle, release the button on the handlebar. And that's all good, but the first time that you do it, you're having to read what it says on the dash when you should be looking at the road. If you're going to implement systems that mean you can change riding modes on the fly, make them so easy and intuitive that you don't have to look at the dash for more than a second, and then it just becomes second nature the second time that you need to do it. But all in all, not much to dislike about this motorcycle at all. So there we have KTM's 790 Adventure. It's not the cheapest adventure bike, middleweight adventure bike in the class. I think probably the Tenere 700 has probably got that gong. I do have a feeling though, if you're like me, a little bit vertically challenged, and you look at bikes like the Tenere and the BMW F800 or F850 GS and you think, oh, that's a little bit big, this is an absolute sound option, and something that riders of almost any ability can get on and enjoy and go and ride lots and lots of miles on and off-road and have a lot of fun. And while I'm talking about the price, I know that's, you know, price isn't the defining factor for a lot of people when they buy a bike, but with this bike I do think that you are actually paying some money for KTM's know-how and knowledge and experience of off-road bikes, because honest to God, it all shines through very, very brightly on this motorcycle. If you like that video, folks, please don't forget to hit like, subscribe and the notification bell so you can stay up to date with all of Visordown's latest videos. For all the latest news, reviews and motorcycle features, please head over to visordown.com. Thanks for watching.